Well, Americans have voted. All 50 states and Washington, D.C. voted across 6 different time zones, voted yesterday. It's not just the popular vote that counts. The U.S.'s complicated system is a race to secure 270 out of the 538 votes in the Electoral College. One person who's been studying this day in and day out, week in and week out for the past 3 months, ANN7 reporter Peter Stemmet, now joining us live from Pretoria. Peter, good morning to you. The big news is obviously Florida, one of the swing states, going to Donald Trump. How important is this going to be?
Peter, it's massive news. One of the most important of the swing states, Florida. You can also include places like North Carolina. That was not quite sure which way it was going to go. New Hampshire is one of those as well. But the problem with that is that New Hampshire is only worth 4 electoral college votes, whereas Florida is the big one, 29. And all of those, because it's a winner-takes-all system, will go to Donald Trump. Now, something very interesting, I was just looking at some projections, and different news houses have got it rated differently. Hillary Clinton has got 209 electoral college votes pretty much across the board, but depending on whether you're looking at CNN or AP or Fox, which remember leans heavily Republican, Donald Trump is anything between 16 and 38 electoral college votes away from becoming the 45th president of the United States.
That's right. We've got it here, obviously, also, as you know, different media houses. We've got 244 for Donald Trump at the moment, 209 Hillary Clinton. Let's just take a look at some of the outstanding states still. Plenty of talk about Wisconsin, Minnesota and Michigan. How important are those states and how many electoral college votes do they hold?
Yeah, look, they're all in that sort of 10 and early teens region across the board. Michigan expected to go the way of Hillary Clinton. Wisconsin, very interesting. Fox News have actually called Wisconsin in favor of Donald Trump, which is very surprising because that's also one of those states that you would expect to be a blue state, and they've called it in favor of Trump, making it a red state. And we haven't seen a blue state go red or a red state go blue in this election, not so far anyway. Of course, you have the battleground states, the purple states that could go either way, but Wisconsin certainly wasn't expected to be one of them. Michigan, you mentioned there as well. So it'll be very, very interesting to see what happens. But I don't think it's certainly not over yet. And I think important for our viewers to know as well that the magic number is 270. And, you know, you can finish on 268. You don't get the presidency. You have to get 270. And neither Trump nor Clinton are there yet.
Those swing states that you were mentioning, the ones that have already been decided. Florida, we've spoken about. North Carolina is also an important one that has now gone to Donald Trump. Looking at Ohio, always significantly and traditionally one of those purple states. Again, it's gone to Donald Trump. Georgia, not so much a purple state to Trump as well. I mean, what is it in those states that has made people gone red?
I think that the key is in the South. You would find that they traditionally go Republican anyway, outside of Florida being a purple state. Georgia, I think it's important to point out that Bill Clinton carried it in 1992, and outside of that, Jimmy Carter won it in 1976. And remember that Carter hails from Georgia, so that it was his home state. But outside of that, Georgia is reasonably a safe haven for the Republicans. North Carolina is one of those that can go either way. Barack Obama won it in 2008, but in 2012 he lost it to Mitt Romney. And Ohio is a crucial one, Peter, because very interesting fact, no Republican has ever won the White House without winning Ohio. So Trump can tick that box, which is very important. But to answer your question, I think particularly in the north, and when you look at places like Michigan, Wisconsin, and they talk about the Rust Belt, that would include Pennsylvania, which most people think will still go the way of Hillary Clinton, but you can include Ohio in that, even Indiana, even as deep as Illinois. These are the places, the heartland of American manufacturing. You look at steel plants, you look at Michigan and Detroit, and you think of Steel City, and you think of Motor City, and you think of the car manufacturing, Chrysler, Daimler, and the like. And the reality is that those plants have generally been closed down. They've moved to Mexico. They've moved to other countries. Listen to me, I'm sounding like Donald Trump here, but it's the truth. That's what has happened. And many Americans have lost their manufacturing jobs in favor of cheaper labor in places like Latin America or Asia. And clearly Americans are angry, they are fed up, and they've decided that instead of voting the way that they've always voted, they're going to possibly try something new. And dare I say, that something new is on the verge of becoming the next president.
Well, that's right. Let's take a look. Peter, I'm just getting reports in now that Donald Trump will win Iowa, 6 electoral votes. How important is that Iowa vote?
I think it's important from the point of view that it just nudges him ever closer to 270. Obviously, with 6 electoral college votes, it's not the biggest state around, but Iowa is also one of those purple states. Sometimes Democrat, sometimes Republican. Barack Obama was a winner in Iowa, but so was George Bush and Ronald Reagan back in the 80s. Something very interesting about Iowa is that it's generally seen as the state that has the largest proportion of voters that identify as evangelical Christians. And, I've had some conversations with church leaders, Peter, who find it very strange that evangelicals would that buy into the Christian message of love thy neighbor and forgiveness and grace would be in favor of a candidate like Donald Trump, which, if we're honest, doesn't exactly preach that message, if you pardon the pun.
Let's talk about these campaigns. You've been studying them for the past 3 months or so. Many analysts are saying that it's been some of the dirtiest campaigning in U.S. presidential history. Take us some of the highlights or lowlights, if you were, of the various campaigns.
Yeah, I think a lot of it has been very well documented. Obviously, Clinton with the emails and the FBI investigation, Trump with his comments about women, his comments about Latinos, his comments about pretty much everybody under the sun, it seems at times. But I think that what has made this one particularly divisive is that if you go back to Obama and Romney, shall we say, Obama, generally speaking, obviously he's a Democrat, obviously he's a liberal, and obviously Romney is a Republican and a conservative, but they're generally middle-of-the-road, moderate candidates. The same could be said of John McCain. George W. Bush, for example, was selling what he called compassionate conservatism. John Kerry was a middle-of-the-road Democrat. Al Gore was a moderate. Bill Clinton was a moderate. So was Bob Dole going back to 1996. George H.W. Bush. All of these candidates, even though they were conservative or liberal, they were, shall we say, conservative enough to appeal to the conservatives or liberal enough to appeal to the liberals. Whereas if you look at this one, Hillary Clinton might be a moderate candidate, but Donald Trump certainly is not. And I think that is what has been the main catalyst for the anger and discontent that we've seen.
Let's look at a couple of the other states still outstanding in terms of the crucial races on the West Coast. We've got Arizona and Nevada. Traditionally, where do they go? We're considering looking at the map right now. It's very much blue on the West Coast.
Yeah, look, on the West Coast itself, California, Oregon, Washington will go Democrat. It always does. Arizona, you can pencil that one in for Donald Trump almost certainly. I think it has 11 electoral college votes. And if you're telling me they've got Iowa, and that means if Fox, who had him on 254, has given him Iowa as well, that's 260, plus Arizona's 271. There's your president, Peter. But let's not get ahead of ourselves just yet. The other one that you mentioned there, Nevada, that's a little bit more of a purple state. And polling was very, very tight there. But I must say that in my assessment of it yesterday, it looked like it was nudging towards Donald Trump. And I suppose you could call it something of a home state with him, since he's something of a casino mogul, and it is the home of Las Vegas.
You're in Pretoria. I know it's nowhere near the United States. But is there a sense of shock? Is there a sense of surprise that that it's looking likely now that Donald Trump may well be the 45th American president? Is there a mood on the ground of concern? What is the mood there?
Yeah, just to put it in context, I'm at the American ambassador's house, and there's several diplomats, politicians, media people here. And I think that what happened when I arrived, the atmosphere was one of surprise, not necessarily shock. There was a lot of surprise about how close it was. But a lot of people had hope that Clinton would still pull ahead. At that stage, California hadn't come in yet, but then California did come in, and Clinton is still trailing. But certainly surprise is the word I would use to describe it.
And just in terms of some of the issues around the campaigns, foreign policy was always an important debate. Some of the most widely watched debates in history, those television debates between Trump and Clinton. Take us through some of the immigration issues that were spoken about by Trump and Clinton. Some controversial comments made there.
Yeah, on immigration, I mean, it all started when Trump announced he was running for president, and he called Mexicans rapists and criminals, and he announced that he was going to build this wall across the southern border, and the Mexicans were going to have to pay for it. And famously, the former Mexican president, Vicente Fox, said that he's not going to pay for that effing wall. I won't obviously use that full word on television, Peter, but that's pretty much been Trump's stance. And the Democrats, as we know, they're open to immigrants coming into the United States, and they're happy to look at a path to citizenship, as they put it. And that's bad news if you're a Republican, because it kind of means that Latino voters are unlikely to be in your corner. But from what we're seeing here, the Latino vote clearly doesn't make up enough percentages, or they didn't get out in enough numbers to stop Donald Trump. Although, as I have said previously, it's not a done deal yet. Not one of the two candidates have reached 270 just yet.
Peter, if you just hold on 1 second, I'll be back to you now. Today, obviously, the whole world asking one big question. What happens if Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump wins the battle for the White House? Experts have mixed opinions on most of them, and they believe Trump's win could impact the US negatively in the global arena. That's due to his extremist policies.